Welcome back. We're excited to continue guiding you through the wetland reserve easements processes, starting with the signing and closing process. If your application is selected for enrollment, you will receive a call from the NRCS asking for more detailed paperwork and information to move forward.
Once the application is made and eligibility is determined and it's ranked, if the application is selected for funding, NRCS will enter into an agreement to purchase the conservation easement. Once that agreement is accepted and signed by the landowner and NRCS, then that starts the next phase of the process for the acquisition, where NRCS will work to actually acquire and close the easement.
And the acquisition process is very lengthy. On average, it's probably anywhere from 12 months to 18 months to maybe even 24 for some properties. And the reason it takes so long is NRCS does a lot of due diligence to make sure the property is legally owned by the landowners and that they can legally acquire those rights.
Once all of the necessary components of your acquisition process are completed and fully satisfied, the enrollment will move to the closing phase. Landowners are compensated for their easement based on an assessed value.
So the value of the easement, which is the amount that NRCS will compensate the landowner for the purchase of the easement, is determined by considering the lower of three components. So that is the lower of a landowner offer, or the lower of an appraisal, or the lower of a geographic area rate cap.
A common question that most landowners have is how they're compensated for an easement. That compensation will occur just like any normal real estate transaction at time of closing. When we close the easement, the landowner will then receive a payment just like any other normal real estate transaction.
The compensation is determined based on various factors, such as the number of acres and the land type, and it is designed to provide a fair return for landowners while ensuring the long-term protection and conservation of wetlands. After signing the easement, you'll be involved in reviewing the preliminary plan, which includes considerations for hydrology and vegetation. Your input is valuable at this stage.
As property owners, NRCS personnel listened to our requests and our suggestions because we knew the property long before they did. Having been a rice farm, we knew where all the drainage issues were and what needed to be done for that. So we were very pleased with their willingness to listen to what we had to say about it and acting on that.
The preliminary plan is further detailed in a wetland restoration plan of operations.
The restoration process of a closed easement to me is the most exciting because that's when we actually get to construct and plant the things that we've been working on for a long period of time through application and acquisition.
During the restoration process, when we're developing the WRP or Wetland Reserve Plan of Operations, that's when we include the landowner in our meetings. And at that time, the landowner will have input as to what things are going to look like on the landscape.
So NRCS will work with the landowners to decide what exactly we're going to do. Now we're trying to restore the historic functions and values of these wetlands.
As a landowner, as far as the restoration process goes, the NRCS worked hand in hand with us and some of the personnel that we have working with our business as far as developing the land and what that would look like. All the engineering specs that are going to go with that of putting in control structures and building up levees, preparing things for wildlife habitat and duck habitat. And so we had a lot of say in that. And again, the NRCS was very helpful in working with us, and Ducks Unlimited was helpful in working with us on just how we wanted the property to be that was good for them and good for us as the landowner.
To be able to take a piece of property like a blank canvas that had been cleared years ago and then put into row crop, take it and restore it back to what its natural state as possible, I take a lot of pride in that.
This plan is the blueprint for the restoration process. The plan is then shared with NRCS partners who will hire contractors to complete the restoration work.
I'm here today on a wetland reserve easement and we're doing the restoration today, actually currently in the restoration, and you can see in the background we're working on levees right now. They're 12-foot wide tops, 6-to-1 side slopes, which makes it easy for landowners to get on, keep them mowed and maintained. So we want our levees to last for years and years to come and not have to be coming back a couple years after the restoration and maintaining or fixing.
The restoration process involves activities like establishing wetland impoundments, enhancing water movement or hydrology, planting native vegetation, and creating habitat for wildlife.
Today we're looking at a full round riser pipe that we install on our wetland reserve easements. What you're looking at here is a beaver grate or a trash guard we use to install on the front side of the pipe, the inlet side of the pipe. And this helps us to keep trash and beaver mud material from getting into the pipe and stopping the pipe up. What we're looking at here is a location where we'll be installing a water control structure. Right now, the contractor is excavating a trench, and the trench is where the pipe will be set. And this pipe will allow the waterfowl impoundment or wetland area to be managed by the pipe.
To give you an idea of the timeline, from the application stage to the completion of on-ground restoration, it normally takes 3 to 5 years depending on a variety of factors, including timing and selection of your application, ranking, completion of legal components associated with the easement transaction, and completion of the actual restoration work based on scheduling contractors and weather.
The Wetland Reserve Easement Program can be a complex journey, but with the assistance and expertise of NRCS, you can successfully contribute to the long-term protection and restoration of these vital wetlands.
At the heart of conservation efforts, dedicated landowners have made a remarkable choice to create a lasting impact on their properties by enrolling in wetland reserve easements with the NRCS. And the reasons why landowners decide to commit their land to easements are as diverse as the land itself.
Farming sometimes is not the most profitable opportunity you can have, in particular farming in the swamp. As the high water comes each year, sometimes you don't even get the crop out. The WRP program offered us an opportunity to sell the easement at a number that made it look good to us, to have the property for ourselves, develop it, and also have it as a hunting opportunity.
These landowners, armed with their knowledge of wetland reserve easements, made a conscious decision. They believed that WREs offered something more, not only for wildlife, but for their families and the future.
Let's take the example of a couple that has 40 acres and they're an elderly couple in their 60s and they have children that may or may not want to farm. Well, those kids do not want to come back to the farm and take over, and this couple is struggling financially. Well, they could take that 40 acres and put it into the WRE program and get, upwards of, we'll say approximately $3,000 an acre. So that's $120,000 for a 40-acre tract. And that can be a game changer for elderly people on fixed income.
Landowners should check with NRCS for current easement rates, since compensation changes over time and varies by state and land type. It is also important to remember that the process from application to restoration can be quite lengthy.
So as far as the whole process from start to finish, you're going to have about 12 months of the application process, and that's going through eligibility and ranking. Then once it gets approved and they make you an offer on it, then they'll do the boundary survey, and depending on the size of the property and the time, that's going to draw out a little bit further. So the whole process, by the time you actually close on it, it usually is about, probably the shortest I've ever seen it done is about 18 months, but normally I tell people about 3 years. And that way you're covered on it.
By enrolling in wetland reserve easements, they've created a difference that will be cherished for generations.
As a landowner, I would suggest that people consider this program. We are leaving a legacy, making many memories with our children and grandchildren on this property as recreational property. We hunt, we fish, we crawfish, deer hunt, duck hunt, and just enjoy that property so much. And it's just allowed us to have so much quality family time.
One bit of advice that I would want to give to those that are considering turning some of their farmland into WRE is just, as my father did, he calculated how much income he could make off the farmland over the next 25 years. And he decided, it would take 25 years in normal, good year farming to make what they could of turning it into WRE. And the fact is that even after, as a landowner, we give that land to the government, so to speak, we still own the land and we can still sell it for a fairly good bit of profit. Maybe not what we could have gotten for it for farmland, But at the end of the day, with what the NRCS and government's going to pay us to put it back into conservation and what we could potentially get from it from selling it, the cost analysis for my dad and for myself was that this was a good choice to make.
As you've heard from these dedicated landowners, the decision to enter into a wetland reserve easement with the NRCS is a transformative journey. It's not just about preserving your land. It's about leaving a lasting legacy for future generations to cherish.
NRCS has worked with our partners to produce a brochure so landowners can better understand the easement process all the way from application to restoration. Also on the back of the brochure is a good guide for landowners to follow as they're filling out applications, and all the documentation that is required from the landowner is listed on the back of the brochure.
If you would like a copy of our brochure, Understanding NRCS Wetland Reserve Easements, you can pick up one at your local field office or scan the QR codes provided. For more information and to start your journey, contact your local NRCS office. Together, we're making a positive impact on our environment, one wetland reserve easement at a time. This video was developed by the Natural Resources Conservation Service and the Tri-State Conservation Partnership.